Sophia Saska, and we're the Saska Sisters. And this is Indie Horror Junkie! Indie Horror Junkie!
Indie Horror Junkie!
Indie Horror Junkie!
Indie Horror Junkie!
Indie Horror Junkie!
Indie Horror Junkie!
Indie Horror Junkie!
We're a panic attack!
Indie Horror Junkie!
Indie Horror Junkies!
Indie Horror Junkie! Indie Horror Junkie!
It's the Indie Horror Junkie Podcast, your source for anything and everything indie horror. Here's your host, Otis B. Dreads. All right, it is Wednesday, 8 p.m. That can only mean one thing. It's time to get your fix. The Junkies are here to make that happen. Welcome to the Indie Horror Junkie Podcast. I'm Otis B. Dreads, of course, rotting Ricky D that way, and Asylum Amy. You almost got called Amy the Asylum or something. I don't know.
It works both ways at this point. So
yes, it does.
All right, how you guys doing? How's your the past week been for you?
Doing good. Hey V, hey Molly. Doing good. Amy, you want to catch them up to speed?
yeah, we just wrapped the Nightmare Collection Volume 3. We filmed that last weekend, so that was a lot of fun. We caught some really cool stuff on tape, so we're pumped for you guys to start seeing some teasers and stills to get you excited about the release, which is going to be in October at the Mistress Mary Film Festival. We're also in pre-production for the Turning short film, which is going to be shot in less than 2 weeks. And that's going to be included in the wraparound story of the Nightmare Collection Anthology Volume 3. And speaking of those two productions, we have also launched our Indie Horror Junkie Hookup social media pages on both Facebook and Instagram. So make sure that you guys are following those. That's going to give you all the behind the scenes on the Indie Horror Junkie productions. We're going to start feeding you guys lots of BTS. We want to go Facebook Live when we're on set so you can see what we're getting into, talk to the cast and crew. So that's been really exciting. We have the next issue coming out in September on the 13th with Peter Anthony's Snow White. That is something to definitely keep your eyes on. They're filming right now as we speak. And of course, we have our latest issue out, which features the boy from Blow on the inside. Spooky Madison is our indie horror hottie. Definitely check that out. That's an up-and-coming indie horror feature that's going to be released next year. And of course, we have our film festival submissions that are open right now. So make sure that you're checking that out and getting it in while you can, because they are flooding in and we have lots to watch. I know I got to catch up. So
I'm caught up for
that is going to come sooner than we blink.
Year.
That's going to be next February at MegaCon Orlando. So make sure all you filmmakers, whether you have an indie horror feature or indie horror short, that you're submitting those so we can help get it out there and promote it for you.
That's right. You've seen in the very beginning of every show the great time that we had this past February at MegaCon. So who wouldn't want to be a part of that is my question.
It's going to come so quick, you guys.
I know. And let me tell you, we like Amy was just saying, we shot the Nightmare Collection, and there was one particular scene that we shot that had us rolling on the floor. It had to be the funniest, somewhat goriest, scariest scene I've ever shot. It all came together and it was so brilliant. And I think we laughed for probably 20 minutes after it was done. It was just so cool.
Rick will tell you I almost peed my pants. I was
I
laughing.
wasn't going to say that. I was going to try and keep that confident because I am the gentleman. But yes,
Oh no, I legit could not. I was so tickled to death, and I was so tickled at how hard Rick was laughing that it
It
was
was
just
that contagious laugh. One
It
person
was.
it was, and we all needed it, and it was such a brilliant scene to film with some really incredible actors that really just fed off of each other in the moment. It was very improv, but it came out so insanely perfect that we're like, that's it, no more takes, wrap it up.
Yep.
So we can't
That's
wait for you guys
awesome.
to see that because you're not gonna see it coming at all.
All right. Well, one thing you are going to see coming, and that is our guest this evening. Again, another first here on the podcast. Mr. Bill Slevin joins us. He's a paranormal investigator, a demonology expert. We're gonna learn us something. So
Mm-hmm.
You gonna
turn the
learn?
lights down low, light the candles. It's time to talk some ghosts, some spirits, some paranormal with Mr. Bill Slevin. Bill, welcome
Hey,
Oh,
Bill.
to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Well,
Absolutely.
you already got it. You listened. You already got it. The lights dimmed down, nice and spooky.
he's a
I have
spooky
that-
guy.
Yeah, the paranormal horror, atmosphere.
Looks like a spooky arcade behind you.
Yeah.
It really
Bill
does.
is everywhere, you guys. If you live in Central Florida, you've seen Bill. He goes to every horror convention that there is. I see him all over the place. I'm always so happy when I get to see you and steal a hug. I feel like everywhere I go that has to do with horror, you're there.
Yeah, exactly. The only time I didn't see you was at MegaCon. I was so busy
yeah.
at our section. It was crazy. That's my wife, by the way. I gotta tell her to look at your video collection back there because I used to have a pretty good selection like that, but kind of got rid of it. It's all streaming now.
Yeah,
I have everything
crazy.
downloaded.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody that comes into my house has to kind of stop at the door, kind of take it all in before they can enter. You know what I'm saying? It's not one of those things you can just walk in because you'll get overwhelmed quickly.
That's what this office is like. But it used to be, I used to have all the whole VHS collection still, but I finally had gotten rid of everything. I have everything downloaded.
No.
But
I was thinking the same thing.
It's hard to condense when you just want to keep everything because you love it.
exactly. I'm at a room.
So
I have
nostalgic.
no room. I have no wall space. I have nothing. And the more I go to horror conventions and everything, you keep picking things up, and I have no space.
Yeah.
I keep trying to find little places where I can put shelving, but I'm running out of it.
Yeah. But I will say, going back to MegaCon a minute, MegaCon, I've been there for the past, I think, almost 4 years. They take really good care of us. I'm a guest in the horror section. We have a massive space, and we have a lot of fun. We do a lot of panels, but it is an overwhelming convention. I passed you probably 100 times and never even saw you because I was going up to our panel room, which was right past you guys, I think. But
that's how hectic it is. Yeah, you cannot do everything. You cannot see everyone. It doesn't matter if you're there all 4 or 5 days. Like there's just no way.
I go to a panel. I come out of the panel. Everybody comes from the panel to the booth. I'm talking pretty much until the next panel. I mean, I can't get away from the booth. There's so many people come up to us and talk, and it's a lot of fun though. I love it. I go every year.
Yep.
You have so much to talk about, Bill. We're excited to get into all that.
Yes. I know. I guess let's go back to the beginning. What got you into the paranormal? Was it always something that younger Bill was into? Was it a particular occurrence that had happened?
Yeah, a little bit of both, kind of. Since I was real little, I was always into horror, paranormal. Movies didn't scare me back then. I watched everything, but like I tell people, it's very different back, growing up in the 70s, 80s, trying to find out anything about paranormal. It was not out in the mainstream. It was not talked about. Everybody was in, there was no TV shows. There was no, it was a lot harder to find people to talk about it. Most people would think you were crazy if you thought you saw a ghost, and if you were chasing them, you were even, crazier than the people that think they have them. So it was tough. It was a lot of me wanting to know. I had some experiences myself, and I didn't know. I found out later on in life I'm an empath. I didn't know what that meant back then. Nobody talked about it. So it was more of me trying to understand what I was experiencing. Was this real? I watched a lot of horror back then. So like, am I, just imagining things? Am I really seeing something? What was it? Made me go on a path trying to learn a lot more.
Hmm.
And so, and then like, and it was 1989 when I finally got somebody to bring me into a residential investigation in somebody's home, which I was excited for. And that's where I tell everybody that was kind of, for me, that was kind of the turning point, and like why I believe it was more like a calling, what I do to help people, because it turned out to be a rare demonic case. My first investigation, where the other investigator next to me got full on attacked, and the people that were there, the other two investigators, I mean, they never did this again after that case. I left there. I was frightened. I'm not going to say I wasn't scared. I was frightened, but had more questions than anything. Like, I always tell people, I didn't know anything about protection and things back then. So why didn't it do anything to me? Why did it attack him? What was it doing? What was it? I didn't know anything about demons back then. So I was confused by all of it. And it kind of pushed me and made me want to know more and be able to help people. That was always my
when
main
you
goal.
say attack, do you mean push down the steps? Was there marks on the person? Define attacked in this particular situation.
We were there 10 minutes. And
didn't take long, at least.
It was three of us. And the guy on my right, he had back then it was a little different, like a big shoulder camera he was holding, and he just started screaming through, and if you guys know, through that camera, lens first to the floor, not even thinking. And we hit the lights, and he grabbed at his shirt and he pulled his shirt off over his head, and he had 3 giant scratch marks from his neck all the way down to the bottom of his spine, like they were like razor blades bleeding. And nobody had experienced anything like that ever, even though those guys had actually been investigating before me. Nobody knew what that was. Nobody knew what was going on. And I tell people, this was 1989. There was no internet. There was no TV shows. If that happened today, especially with a team of people that I didn't know well, I wouldn't believe it 100%, unless I saw the scratch marks happen. But there's no way that this was set up. And like I said, they never did anything after this. So the strange part was there was no marks on his shirt. And still to this day, I have a lot of questions about what happened there. It wasn't until years later when I started really getting into demonology that I learned about the fact that when demons attack, a lot of times it is 3. It's mocking the Holy Trinity. And scratches, I deal with people all the time that say, oh, I woke up, I had this scratch. And they do that in their sleep. Their animal did it. It's, most of the time. But I learned later on that an actual demon is more like a razor blade. It's a very thin line, and that's exactly what these were. I didn't know that.
Fucking Freddy Krueger. I knew it.
Yeah. Back then, I thought it was a ghost, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is what ghosts do,
Bill, why do you think that you had protection that night versus the other people that were in the room, now that you know more about it versus when you were present?
That's one of the questions. That's a great question, though. But that is one of the questions, honestly, I've never been able to answer. I don't know, because like I said, now when I go out, we say certain prayers. I have things that I wear that are blessed. And, I have so many different things that we do for protection. And that doesn't mean I'm immune to anything. I've gotten attachments. I've had many different things. But I don't know. I have no idea, because there was 3 of us, and it just went right to him. And I don't know why it happened. I don't know why. I wish I could answer that one.
Now, when you said
oh, sorry.
That's okay. I was going to say, when you just said that you had attachments,
yes.
What exactly did you mean? Like, did you bring something home one time or something? Can you tell us a little bit about what happened and what the situation was?
Right. Well, attachments, people, as soon as they hear attachments, they think, oh, there's a ghost sitting on your shoulders and he's walking around. It's, yes, you can have attachments can be two types of things that I've experienced and I've seen in my life. Either, yes, something actually follows you home and is attached to you, or it puts its negative energy onto you. So it doesn't actually follow you, but it throws its negative energy onto you. So I've had a few over the years. The last one I had was back in, I think it was October of 22, and it was right up here at the Riddle House in West Palm Beach. And it's real weird because I've been there many, many times. I've never had an issue. And we were up in the attic with another team, War Party Paranormal, and they were doing EVPs, recordings, and it was crazy because it was I use it at my lectures a lot. It was one of the clearest EVPs I've ever captured. Well, it wasn't me that actually captured it, but I was there, and it was directed at me because they were telling whatever was there to talk to me, and it actually spoke over the person asking questions, which is unusual, and it said straight out, "He's dead." So I laughed about it. That's my wife will tell you that's not that funny, but I was laughing. I came back the next day. I felt fine, and all of a sudden, I was deathly sick. There was nothing wrong with me. I don't know. We went. I had nothing wrong with me. I just did not feel well. I was having every bit of bad luck that you can imagine. Yeah, she's got to cleanse everything all the time. I've had
She's a
every
keeper.
bit of. Yeah, yeah. She's on the team, but she doesn't investigate. But she's an energy healer. She works with energy.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I had bad luck. Everything was happening. I'm an IT guy during the day, so my computer died that I had just built. I mean, everything you can think of, and I know some people will say it's coincidence. It's possible. But once I went and I got like cleansed and blessed and the whole thing, then it went away. And this is something that happens to a lot of people. Sometimes they don't realize that some negative energy was thrown on them or something like that, or something came with them a little bit. They maybe just think they were having some bad luck, or it happens. It happens more than people think, but it's not something where you go on a ghost tour and you're going to come home with 5 ghosts attached to you. It's not that bad.
What brings about an attachment? Now, what it means we're on the why do they attach to certain people and maybe not to others?
Those are the questions that are very hard to answer. I can tell you this. I've seen it happen a lot to people who, there's 2 things. And again, this doesn't include me, so I don't know why it attached to me really, because I'm very respectful. People provoke things. They're disrespectful. I tell people when we go into a person's home or to a public location, it doesn't matter, living, dead, you're supposed to be respectful to everybody. It's not something that we're going in there to taunt them and make them dance around like monkeys. That's not what it's about. It's more for research and for help. And I've seen people that are, if you're very negative, or if you're going through a lot, like let's just say you're at home, you're having some issues. Could be with your wife, husband, it could be with your kids, it could be just some depression, something at work, anything that is taking you down a little bit, you should not go on an investigation, because it makes you vulnerable for something to attach to you, because you're already a little oppressed, and it's easy for them to just throw themselves onto you.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's people like if you know about Robert the Doll down in Key West, there's a lot of people that will tell you a million things. They went down there, they made fun of him, nothing happened to him. But I could tell you a million stories about the people who made fun of him, didn't ask for permission, and had everything from a stupid little, burst of bad luck to, we had one of our library shows, we had somebody come up and tell us that his wife was making fun of them when they were down there, and then when they left, they got into a car accident, she was killed on the way home. So I don't know what to say to that, but is that a coincidence? It could be, but that's why I tell people, don't test that fate.
Yeah.
There's no reason to go down there and make fun of him, because what are you going to do if it was real?
Right.
So
Hey,
yeah,
Howard.
Go. When did you start maybe going to, let's say, old abandoned places? Have you been to, some of these speculated haunted asylums? I have my own opinion. I have been to one or two, and I always thought, because they're bought by private owners a lot of times to maybe maintain them.
right.
I went to Hillview Manor, as a matter of fact, in PA, and I got the thought, the skeptic that I am, because there was something that was picked up, and it was clearly a female's voice.
Right.
My wife at the time was the only female there, and she was upstairs waiting for some friends that were coming in from Maryland. So she wasn't even in the proximity. And a buddy of mine had picked up a female voice. I think it was blurting out explicatives. And we were not taunting or anything, because my buddy is like real serious about it, and but me being the skeptic, after thinking about it, I'm like, who's to say this isn't a money game, a money scam? And these people have things wired in there to play little sounds, to play into people's, thinking that this place is haunted, just to collect some money. What are your thoughts about that? And have you had experiences from notable past buildings and whatnot?
Right. I haven't been to much. I'm originally from New Jersey, but I haven't been to a lot of big places outside of Florida. I do so many residential cases and things that I have a big bucket list. There's a lot of places I want to go to. It's mixed on that, because there's a few different things. You can take any location. I could take my house, and there is nothing in here, I assume, at the moment. And my wife might chime in on that. But if I sit here and take out my equipment and have other people come in and keep investigating in here, everything we use is a means of communication. So if I sit here with a recorder right now for the next 2 hours, I have a chance of pulling something in. So a lot of people believe too that a lot of these haunted locations, like some of the big places, that a lot of the stuff that's in there was actually brought in by other people. It could have been their energy that brought it in. It could have been them investigating in there. And there could be some things from whatever went on in there. But there have been places before that have people have called them out, saying that there was things, set up and rigged. And, I mean, the best thing to do is, if you're going to go to a place, is to know the location, talk to the people that are there, know how much you can get into and what's off limits, and kind of just, as an investigator, like a real investigator, you learn to be a skeptic. When we go into a place, we always believe there's nothing there first, so that we want to prove the natural causes before we believe it's possibly something paranormal. So
I heard something earlier that says, if you go into a place thinking that something is going to happen, and your belief system is so true to this, the paranormal, that you'll literally think that you're hearing something when actually you're not. That you can your mind will kind of bring it, into reality.
You can.
So going in as a skeptic, that sounds like a great way to approach it. Prove me wrong. I don't believe there's shit going on in here. Prove me wrong, and then I'll believe. Yeah.
Right. No, I mean, that's honestly what it is. You have to go in with skepticism, because you have to. There are so many things. If you, like you said, if you go in thinking it's haunted, one of two things could happen. You can either believe it in your head, or you can self-manifest it yourself.
Right.
If you go back into parapsychology, I'm a parapsychologist. If you go back into parapsychology, there's a lot of studies and things they did where they sat in a room and they made a bunch of psychologists made up a fake guy. They called him, I forget, I always forget his name. Maybe it was Philip. They made a name. They made a whole story behind him, a whole backstory, his family, his work, what he did, and he died there, blah blah blah. And they talked about him, I think, in the room for, you know, many hours over many weeks. And then brought investigators in. They didn't tell them anything. They just brought them in to investigate, and all their stuff came back with the exact things. They heard Philip, they heard what he did, they heard everything that they said in there because they manifested it into the air through the energy. And that sounds, as a skeptic, that's going to sound even crazier than there's a ghost in there. But
true. Yeah.
it does. And you know, it's one of those things where we're all energy. When you die, energy doesn't die. Energy can't be created and it can't be destroyed. So your energy goes on places. One of the biggest things we encounter is called residual hauntings, where I had a case one time, and I always use this as an example. They said, oh, they would hear footsteps going up the stairs. It was every night around 7 o'clock. And we went in to investigate and didn't really find much at the house. And then the one night we were there, this was in New Jersey, and we actually heard the footsteps. And that can be from something like maybe 100 years ago in that house, or maybe in a house that was on that property before. Somebody lived there, and every night they came home, and at 7 o'clock they walked up the stairs to go get changed or something like that. That energy is like a footprint, and it gets stored into that location. And it could be the actual spirit there, or it could just be that energy in the house. And a cleansing will actually, change that energy. One of the things I always use, or that I learned a lot about energy from my wife, is the plants in the house used to die all the time. I would buy her flowers. They die in like 2 days. And I used to joke with her saying, I'm not buying your flowers anymore. You kill the flowers, And she said, that's the energy. And she went and she cleansed Now, I know a lot about energy, but I didn't know about it in these forms. She cleansed the house, fixed the energy. Every flower I bought after that lasted 3, 4, 5 weeks without a problem. And then at times it would start happening again, re-cleanse, and it was fine. It's a weird thing. People come in your house and they can bring negative energy. And somebody comes in your house and they had a really bad day and they're pissed off. Their energy actually comes in and can go onto you and cause you to get angry.
Yeah.
Bill,
real quick,
yeah.
Got a question from Mr. Howard Hawkins. Do you believe that people can be sensitive to the paranormal?
Yes. There's a lot. I mean, I'm what you call an empath. So I'm not like a psychic. I cannot see them and talk to them or whatever. But when I go to a location, I can feel the energy and the emotions of the living and the dead. And that's one of the things, like when I was young, I didn't understand. I'd go to like a family party and I'd be sitting there and I'd get real depressed. And I didn't realize what it was. It was coming off of somebody else, So there are people who have many different levels of that. I have people on my team. I have a very large team now across many states. And some of my team members here in Georgia and Nebraska, they have unbelievable gifts that you would have to experience it to understand it. They're psychics, mediums, Peruvian shamans. I mean, everything you could think of. And a lot of them do remote viewing. They could go right into the person's home and see their whole house without being there. And
Wow.
so there are, and then kids are definitely more open to the
Yeah.
paranormal when they're young. It's just when they get a certain age, it usually closes or it stays open. I believe everybody has it. They just have to open it or close it. There's people that have it that don't know they have it. And it's, some of the hauntings we get where you go in and there's a ghost in there, it's because these people are so sensitive that they're actually drawing them in almost like a portal. They're pulling them in like a magnet.
There was a conversation my dad and I used to have, and because I would talk to him about how I would get around certain people and they would just like, I would get like a really negative emotion, almost like anxiety being around them. Like I wanted to get away from them. Sometimes it was as soon as I met them.
Right.
And when I talked to my dad about that, he started telling me how, like, yes, I feel that too. And he basically told me, like, when you're in those situations, it's not just your instincts, it's if you are around somebody and you feel that way instantly, or you feel that way every time you're in their presence, he's like, Amy, stay the hell away from them. Just stay away from them.
Right.
And I never really, and I still don't know what it is, but there
Mhm.
are certain people in my life that I have met and that I will come into, like, I have to see them maybe a couple times a year. I run into them, but when I'm around them, it is a
Mhm.
feeling that I just want to get away from them. And it's not really
Right.
something I can explain, but he
That
understood it. He felt it too. My dad was very intuitive.
that's the negative energy you're feeling. It's a
Hmm.
different, like,
But it's a
vibration.
very
It's a
sickening, like you don't want to be in their presence.
Yeah.
right. Right. I went into a house, it was in Boca, it was like, a client we went to, and, it was weird because, she thought she had demons in the house. Everybody thinks they have demons. They think they had demons in the house and this and that, and, went in the house, and I was very surprised because it was a big multi-million-dollar house in Boca, and went in, and it was so, like, light and inviting and welcoming, and it was really weird. I figured, "Oh, this is gonna be quick." And then we walked into her room, and it felt like somebody was sitting on my shoulders. The
Mm.
Hmm.
energy was so heavy in that room. It was crazy, and that's where she was doing it. She was doing astral projection that would bring something in. But, yeah, it's very strange. I can feel it sometimes, even strangely enough. Uh, but it helps us. For example, when I'm doing a residential case, we're dealing with real people. A lot of them don't want to tell us at first, maybe some very personal stuff. We ask a lot of personal questions because we need to know if you have mental illness, addiction, you're on medications, that type of stuff we need to know. We're not going to think that's your problem because it can be one, it can be other, it can be both. But we need to know that to really uncover the truth. And a lot of people, they don't want to tell you, or maybe they got to warm up to you a little bit before they'll tell you certain things. We went into a home, and it was a really nice family. And I'm telling you, we were asking about things, and no, 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 no medical conditions, no medications, no nothing. I felt so uncomfortable because I can feel the wife. And I said it to my team members. She's sick. Something's wrong with her. I can feel it. I can feel her. And, later on that night, after we're there for a few hours, she opened up to a couple of my teammates talking about how she has, I think she was, I want to say maybe, I don't remember the term, but she had a lot of things, that she was taking a lot of medications for, a lot of, bone problems or whatever, things like that. But I knew it. I said to them, I said, I'm telling you, she's not telling us something, and those are the things that are important. Sometimes it can help us, you know. Um,
Yeah.
it's a very strange thing, and like I said, it's a lot of it. Over the years, when I was young, it took a long time to learn what this actually was.
I think Howard had another little story there or something that he just put on the
Yep.
thing. I think you flashed a biotis.
Yes.
Everything.
My wife was a non-believer till she met the child one night that was in my room for years. I was the only one that had seen him. Travels with me from house to house. How common is that,
Hmm.
Bill? He plays games on my kids and causes them to run out.
I would not like that.
Well, again,
Sounds
spirits,
like a
ghosts,
little mischievous child spirit, which
right,
children, I have heard this, that if things coming up missing could be shiny things. Kids are attracted to shiny things. Could
right,
be a child spirit playing games on you, hiding it. You're like, man, I just put that damn thing right there. Why is it in the bathroom? It doesn't ever belong in the bathroom, one of
right.
those kind of things. So,
Well,
what do you have to comment about Howard's story
y-
there?
yeah, I mean, it is. Spirits can attach to a location, an item, or a person. So if they're kind of hanging around the person and you're moving, yeah, they're going to follow you. Um, they are not there to harm you. Like he said, they're playing jokes on the kid, things. Of course, they're going to scare people, but they're not there to harm you. You have to remember this: you have a person. when they die, if they were a kid, they're still going to be a kid. If they
Right.
were an angry, cranky person, they're going to be an angry, cranky person, probably in in death. You know? Oh, great.
His name is Billy. We can refer to him as Billy now.
But you know, so if you had a person who was a prankster, they're going to be a prankster. You know, that's just it's their energy. It's that what they were. So most of the time, we believe that's that's how they'll be. You know, again, it's up to you how you want to handle it. If
Yeah.
you're okay with it, it's not going to harm you. If you want it out, somebody can cleanse it and or help it pass on, or whatever, and get it out of the location. It's how each person wants to handle it.
I got a question.
Rick, Amy, you
Yeah.
guys go ahead. I've been hogging the mic here.
That's okay. I was going to say, with relation to movies, obviously, are there any movies that come to mind to you? Because there are so many ghost movies, or so many ghost hunter type movies. We won't even talk about Ghostbusters, but with things like White Noise and stuff like that. Are there any movies that you feel really hit it close to home as far as believability, and whether it be the process or whatever it is, or the stories or things like that?
Right.
Or obviously there's so many of them that are just total movies and making shit up as they go. But is there anything that really caught your eye that you could say, yeah, this was one that really hit home, or really got close?
It's tough. It's more like pieces,
Yeah.
because Hollywood's always going to take it and make it how they want. I'm a regional director and one of the managers that runs the Warren Legacy Foundation. So I
Wow.
work right. So I work with Chris McKennell, who's the grandson of Ed and Lorraine. I work with Joe Frankie, who worked with them for 36 years. I've heard a lot of the stories. Some things from the movies are very real, and then they modify them. Like Chris, I don't want to say anything and get it wrong, but I know Chris has talked to me many times about the haunting in Connecticut.
Mhm.
And if I'm right, and I hope I don't misquote him, that was his case. He lived with that family for I think it was like 9 weeks or something like that. And I believe the fact that the kid had cancer, they found the house closer to the hospital, and it was an old funeral home. I believe that was all real. Everything past that was not the real story.
Mhm.
They took it and changed it. And he said actually what happened was more horrific than what they did in the movie, so he doesn't understand. So they change it, but there's a lot of little things like, if you watch the movies like, Exorcist movies and things like that, the Conjuring movies, there's a lot of stuff that I can tell you, yes, it's Hollywood, but there's also things that happen in those movies that I've seen in real life. So there is a little truth to, behind everything. I can't say if you took a movie and just one movie that, lined it up, but I mean, Sixth Sense, yeah. But it's tough to say that, but pieces of movies, I would say more, even back in the 80s, there was a movie. I'm excited about this. I have a convention in Fort Myers in October, and Tom McLaughlin is going to be there, and he wrote the movie One Dark Night. That was one of my all-time favorite movies back in the 80s because it dealt with the energy and all of the stuff I deal with, so I'm excited to talk to him a little bit because that movie actually, I was so excited about that movie in the 80s because there wasn't a lot of movies like that where they were, it was all about telekinesis and
Right.
all about stuff like that was very different. So
All right, I have two questions before I forget about them, okay?
Yeah.
First off, I know you're located here in Florida. Have you ever been to or heard of a place called Casadega?
yeah. Oh
Have you
boy.
been there?
You're gonna see my wife come on with this one.
Oh boy.
So I'll give you a little example of, could it be something? Could it be coincidence?
Mhm.
So it was, we go up a lot to St. Augustine and Daytona for New Year's most of the time. We go up maybe for like a week, just go have vacation and So this year we went up this past year, a couple days before New Year's. We're driving up and I said, hey, have you ever heard of Casadega? You got to stop at Casadega on the way up. So we pull in there and I wanted to go see the Devil's Chair. So she she was not too thrilled with me when she saw me pulling into the cemetery. um, so we go in there, and I just told her, look, I explained a little bit. I said, look, I'm just gonna go take a couple pictures of me in the devil's chair. I got to get a few photos, and I sat there. She took a few pictures. She was not happy about this, and this is where I have an issue.
Was she not happy because she felt like something might attach to you?
Yes.
Okay.
She was assuming it would, because here's the thing: when I go and I do an investigation, or we're going to, I'm protected, and I make sure I'm well protected. It doesn't always work, but I make sure I'm well protected. When I do things like this, I don't think, I just do them. So I sat in the chair. There was a doll that was on the chair, and it was all hunched over. So I picked up the doll and I straightened it out. And she's like, "Why in the hell would you touch that?"
Yeah.
You know, and she said, because it's not necessarily the devil's there, you know, but somebody's energy could have been there. So
That's right.
Hey, I was fixing the doll. I'm making it happy. And we left there. We went to eat at Casadega, the hotel, had some lunch, and then continued up to St. Augustine. On the way up to St. Augustine from Casadega, got deathly sick. I was sick the entire vacation.
Here we go again.
And she swears it was because I was in that chair.
You touched that freaking doll.
Well, I've been to Casadega a couple of times, spent the night a couple of times. I even have a dramatization podcast that I did called No Sleep Tonight. And one of my episodes was called The Devil's Scare, that we wrote about that particular chair. That is probably I'll tell you, the one time that I went there with a friend, and our plan was to stay at the hotel, which we did, and we were going to go at midnight and try and sneak into the cemetery, because the idea is you have to be there at midnight and sit in the chair, and if you're there, the devil's supposed to whisper in your ear. So that was our plan. We went at midnight. We drove over there. We had to park the car a ways down, and we started walking. And that street over there by the cemetery, there's like no street lights.
Right.
The houses that are there have no porch lights.
Nope.
So we started walking maybe 20, 30 yards down the street, and it got so dark that you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And you didn't hear anything anymore. There were no cicadas, no nothing. So needless to say, we turned around, found the car, and decided to call it a day. But,
over it. Glad you got the heck out of there.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I went and sat in a chair. She's going to kill me, but I'd sit in a chair again. I have no problem with it. But I probably would not test the whole midnight, because I heard many different stories about that. You sit there and you bring a beer, and the whole thing, you offer a beer, and the devil, I've heard the devil whisper in your ear, and I heard the devil will appear. So the thing is, I've been on demonic cases. I don't want to call him in there.
No.
I have no need to see him like
no
that.
push the envelope. No.
Yeah. That I probably wouldn't test, because if he appears, what are you going to do?
Right.
Give him the beer and run.
Absolutely. Well, the whole thing with that beer thing is they said that if you put a full beer down in the chair unopened, and when you come back the next day, the beer will be empty. The can will still be unopened. So, but we'll get off that one. I do have one other question. That's something that I've always brought up, and I've talked to a lot of people about, and I'm always curious about this.
Yes.
First part of the question is, do you believe in Ouija boards?
Yes.
The second part of the question is, if that is the case, why are these things made by Parker Brothers and available to children in toy departments? What are they trying to tell us? Is this the Illuminati trying to possess the world? What happened here?
Well, here's the thing. You can go to the store and buy a audio recorder, right?
Well, yeah.
Same thing. That's what I tell people. Do I believe in the Ouija board? Sure. Have I seen it work? I believe I have. Now, but the thing is, it's not about the board. It's not about the planchette on top. It's not about that. That's a game made by Parker Brothers. It's the intent of what you're doing. Before the boards, people would draw that on paper or on the table and use a cup. They did automatic writing. There's so many different things you can do. Like I said, any of our equipment, it's all the same as a Ouija board. It's communication. So it's about you knowing how to properly do it, how to properly open a session, how to properly close a session, how to be respectful, how to know what you may be talking to. Because the problem is, what I tell people, the reason the Ouija board has such a bad rap is because the majority of people who use it are kids when they're young being stupid. I did it, and we all did it. Or people who are grieving, looking for somebody. And that's the problem. They open it up and they sit there looking for grandma, eventually something's going to respond to you.
That ain't grandma.
Right, exactly. And you're not going to know that. And you're not going to know how to test that or tell. You're just going to be so excited it was grandma. You're welcoming them in. Because if you keep talking to them and communicate with them, you're allowing them access in there. And that's how it all starts.
And then if you don't properly close it, you leave that door open.
Right. I'll give you an example. So I was in high school. I had a Ouija board, of course. And I had one of my friends over. Parents were away for the night. And we were playing with the board. Now, here's the other thing I tell people. Also, it's very tough to say, does the board work? Because think about everybody you know. How many people could you 100% trust not to move it? You know what I mean?
Yep.
I have one of my best friends who's actually on the team. He's a pure skeptic. I trust him because he would do everything to prove me wrong. So him I may trust. But the other part of it,
you can trust me.
Like a pendulum. Just like a pendulum, just like dowsing rods. Okay, dowsing rods you hold in your hand and they move, and your hands are going to slightly move. But it's believed, same thing with the board, that yes, you might actually be moving or somebody may be moving it, but it may be the spirit guiding your hands. Spirit guiding the pendulum, spirit guiding the dowsing rod. So it's not so much that the other person's pushing it. But I will tell you this. We were at the house. He didn't want to play with it. I convinced him to play with the thing. I had a remote control car. And it was sitting on top of the TV, one of the old school TVs that was wide. So it was sitting on top with the wheels hanging off on each side. We start playing with the Ouija board, and all of a sudden, the car starts moving. The wheels are spinning. He's freaking out, and I'm like, I've been an electronic computer guy all my life, so I'm like, wait. I opened it up. The battery was in it. Pulled the battery. It stopped. I said, okay. I put it back. We start playing again. Wheels started spinning. So. Again, in electronics, it could have a little charge held up there, but this thing was spinning fast. He ran out of the house. Well, first he got up and he was like, "What?" And I tried to calm him down for a minute, and then the planchette moved.
Okay.
And we were both standing up, and then he ran out of the house and ran down the block and got a payphone, called his mother to come get him because she was freaked out. And then later, this is the crazy part though. Later that night, luckily the stuff didn't scare me because now I'm left in the house by myself for the rest of the night. I was like 16, and I had a big dresser, 2 dressers that were connected in the back by brackets, and 2 hutches on them, all connected. I was downstairs. I heard this noise. It sounded like the roof came in. I went up into my room, and the entire dresser with the hutches and everything was on the floor, face down. Took like 5 of us the next day to pick it back up. So I can't explain that. Those are the type of things I can't explain. But, I worry a little bit about that because if you talk to Joe Frankie, who worked with the Warrens for 36 years, he says the devil doesn't come on your time, comes on his time.
Oh, boy.
So
okay.
If you played with that,
calm down, Amy.
This can freak people
I
out.
won't even have a Ouija board or Ouija board decoration in my house.
I've got like 10 of them here in the house. You can borrow them if you want to.
And I love to spook. I just, things, I don't know.
Well, this can scare people a little bit. I don't know if I believe it. This is what he says. He said, if you played with it at 16, he said it might wait until you're 60 when you're at your lowest point in your life to come and get you because you're oppressed. Maybe you have something wrong with you. Maybe you're sick. Maybe that's when they come at you. I have no proof of that, so I don't want everybody to freak out. But that's what they always say. Yeah,
touched that Ouija board and planchette before.
Well, if you watch the Oscars when Will Smith,
because I did play it as a kid.
When Will Smith smacked Chris Rock, remember what Denzel told Will Smith? He said, "It's when you're at your highest is when the devil will come for you."
Right.
That I believe.
Mm-hmm. Well, that I don't want to get into.
That I believe.
But, that was a whole new level. That's a whole level of demon we don't know.
Well, your wife just chimed in that if you decide to go back to Casadega, you're going on your own. So you may want to steer clear.
I just drive. She'll have no idea where I'm going.
Yeah, I played a lot as a kid, like at slumber parties and as a
Yeah.
teenager at slumber parties, but now as an adult that I've looked more into it and like what you really could be invoking, I just don't want anything to do with it.
But
Like,
Right.
doesn't that draw your interest though? Because you're thinking that everybody's scared of it, and it's a tool, and it could open up these portals and this and that. Yet it's made by Parker Brothers, and you can buy it at a toy store. Doesn't it make you wonder how those conversations may have went back in the day when they developed that, and how this thing got sold to begin with and put out there to begin
Right.
with?
I would love to. I don't know how that started, to be honest. I don't
I would
know. And I
love
would
to know
love
how
to
that
know
started.
that process. That was definitely somebody
next
there was
homework
like,
this week is to find the origin story of the Ouija board.
Well,
yeah,
because you figure back in the day, especially, when this came out back in the 60s or something like that, I mean, superstitions and supernatural stuff was really something you just don't talk about.
right.
Nobody wanted to be any part of it. So how the hell did that go to a marketing table and say, hey, yeah, we're going to put that out. Let's put that out.
Yeah.
Let's put it in a toy store.
Right.
Kids
And it
will
was
love
great.
it.
And back then, parents were buying it for kids like crazy. I mean, I had one.
I know that. Goes to show you, parents suck.
Oh, see,
You know?
I wasn't allowed to have one, so I had to go to like my best friend's house and do it over there. But I was interested as a kid, and I was always the one to initiate it. Like if I could go to her house and like
That doesn't
"Hey,
I
surprise
let's
do.
me.
It
do a
doesn't
Ouija
surprise me at all.
board." Yeah,
I
I
couldn't,
I would get everybody excited to do it. It's like the one thing I wanted to do at the party.
I couldn't get my friends. Nobody would come and do it.
It's too bad we weren't friends back then. But
Like I said, I got 10 of them here, Bill.
I had that interest because I always had little things going on in my house as a kid.
Right.
And I've talked about this a couple of times on the show, but like I can remember, I would always want to sleep with my door locked because I thought I heard someone walking down the hallway at night. And I kept telling my dad, I hear footsteps. It trips me out. I don't like it. And everybody would promise like we were asleep. Amy, it wasn't me. So my dad put this motion detector light on the lamp at the end of the hallway.
Oh, that's worse.
And it would come on several times,
Right.
at night around the same time. I'm like, Dad, you got to get that out of the house. You're making it worse. Like, I'll just live with whatever it is.
Mm.
And then there were several occasions that I had friends that tragically passed, like in my early 20s.
Mm.
It was almost like Final Destination. It was a really weird time of my life. I went to like
Jeez.
12 funerals in less than 2 years, and it was all
Oh, wow.
my age, my brother's friends. But there was one night I came home and saw my brother's best friend standing at the end of the hallway outside of my brother's door. I wasn't freaked out, but I saw him and I knew it was him. There was a night where I was asleep and all the papers flew off my desk. There was a first apartment my husband and I had. We weren't married yet. We were still pretty young. And one of his best friend, one of our really good friends, he worked with them. We had his boom box that my husband kept as like just to remember his friend by. It was something that he had left at work. And
Right.
this boom box, in order to play a CD, you had to turn it on, hit CD, and then hit play. 3 steps, right?
Right.
This freaking thing would just turn itself on in the middle of the night. And it would happen. It happened more than once. We would wake up, we'd hear it, and then because it was in the hallway on the other side of the apartment, and the hall light would be on, and that would be playing. So I've had these weird things, over the course of my life and being a young adult, that now that I'm older, like I don't want to screw with anything. I don't want Ouija boards in my house. I'm not trying to go sit in the devil's chair. I just want to mind my own damn business.
Yeah,
And
I'm
make
a
scary
little,
movies,
I'm a little opposite with that, unfortunately. But but
Me
you see,
too.
now you brought up a good point, and this is why I actually enjoy investigating back then a little more at times, because like you said, if that boom box went off, to me, that's a good piece of evidence, because like you said, you have to physically push that button. Now
3
with
steps.
everything's
buttons, yeah.
digital, everything listens to you, everything turns on. With something turned, I get a lot of people that say my TV just keeps turning on by itself. Of course, I learned with certain frequencies of stuff with remotes years ago. I had a TV where if I couldn't figure out what it was. It kept going off and kept going off. And I found out if you took my key ring and jiggled my key ring, it shut the TV off. The frequency of it shut it off. So there's many scientific, and that's why I studied a lot You know, I study everything. I have 33 years in the IT field. I'm an IT director. I have 33 years in the IT field. I have a PhD in parapsychology and metaphysical humanistic science. I've studied some quantum physics, quantum mechanics. You know, I try to learn a little bit of everything so that when I go in and we're helping people, we can give them the best, you know, evidence that we can find. We don't want to go in and tell somebody you have a ghost because, you know, we heard a noise. You can't do that because you're going to freak people out. And if it's something of natural causes, your cleansing isn't going to fix that, and you're going to leave and the stuff's still going to be there. You know,
Yeah.
or if you don't know what you're doing and you think it's nothing and you go in there, you can actually make things worse. You know, that's
It's
why I tell
almost just
people,
irresponsible just to go somewhere and do something when you don't know what you're doing it. That's like, I'm not
right.
afraid of, you know, positive energies in my home. You know, I have
Mhm.
felt things. I know what things that have gone on, and I just have an awareness of it. It doesn't freak me out because I don't feel like it's evil, but like to go and provoke and just be clueless, it's like
Right.
then you go back and there's other people who live with you in your house. Like I got a husband and 2 little babies. I'm not trying to bring any attachments home to me. So I just don't want to
Hmm.
stir anybody up.
It's
And
yeah,
that's why I
it's
don't think I myself have any issues. I mean, like I said, when I said I have like 8 Ouija boards around here, I do. I've got them. I love the whole Ouija board. I love the mysticism. I love all that stuff.
right.
But at the end of the day, I'm not trying to provoke anything. Even though I've got 8 different Ouija boards here, a couple of Ouija tables, and everything else,
One gets the list.
I've never once used the Ouija board.
Right.
They're strictly
And
decorations. They're strictly there
you're
to
good.
be, look, that's it. Yeah. I'm
Right.
not looking to try and raise the devil or raise anything like that. And like I told you before,
You're not.
the only reason I'm even interested in seeing a ghost is just to prove that there's life after our existence here. That's it. I'm not one
Sure.
of those guys that, hey, let's push the envelope. I don't want to do that because I truly believe in that stuff. But to me, in order to truly believe it, I have to see it. And that's one of the things that I'm
Right.
hoping to see, but
Well,
hoping to see in a good way, not in a bad way.
right. Well, it's like for me, yes, I enjoy going out to the public locations, and that's
Mhm.
more where we're doing research. I'm IT and I am paranormal, which is a very, very bad. Amy knows, she's seen my table setup. I have a ridiculous amount of
It's
equipment.
beautiful. It's a huge
Thank you.
setup.
I have a ridiculous amount of equipment, but I use
No, Howard.
a fraction of that when I go into a person's home. That stuff is
Mhm.
more for research because I can tell you a million things that can cause those devices, just being IT, what can
Yeah.
cause them to go off. You know, of course, if we're in an abandoned location in the middle of some place where there's no power, it's really cool when you see some things go off that you can't explain. But when we go into a person's home, completely different. I encourage people to go out and do this, and you'll be safe. But if don't go into people's homes and mess with people's lives if you don't know what you're doing. You know, we go in with
For real.
audio, video, and environmental stuff for EMF, stuff for temperature changes, things like that, that can help us. And it's not like we're in there looking for an EMF reading to go and be like, oh, there's a ghost. It's more for us to see, is it their Wi-Fi that's pulling the signal and blasting EMF across the house? EMF is a very big thing that people don't realize. It can cause many things to you. We've had a case in New Jersey where it was causing those people to have hallucinations, nausea, all kind of things because the EMF was so messed up in their house. Their wiring was unshielded, and it was an old house. It was blasting EMF through the house that they were actually hallucinating and seeing things.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's many natural causes, but there are stuff out there. Like I said, I do this to help people and to research. I do love it, but the demonic side of it, you know, I got in that again to help people. I get called in to help assess cases if they could be demonic. I do not look forward to those cases. I do them because I want to help people, and I've studied for a long time. Um, every one of those cases I was part of, which are few because they are rare, are probably the most frightening things I've ever been part of in my life. I will never ever forget them. They will haunt me forever. When we go on to a public thing, I've been touched. I've been a little bit of that stuff. You'd be surprised what you get immune to. But the demonic cases, you don't know because when you go in, you don't know, is it going to be, is it not? And if it is, you have no idea what could happen because
It's so
many
scary,
things can
Bill.
happen. Yeah, no. That part is anybody that tells you they've been on a demonic case and they weren't scared, they're either lying or it was not demonic case. You
There
know,
it
they
is,
didn't
folks.
know.
You
Makes
heard
Because
it
that
sense
here.
to
Bill
me.
Slevin.
yeah,
Makes
you know,
sense to me. An
yeah.
hour flew by. We really needed about
We need
2
more.
hours.
Yeah.
One on just
We'll have to have you
paranormal
back,
and
Bill.
another hour for
Anytime.
demonology.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
BillSlevin.com.
Sure.
Yeah, BillSlevin.com. We always love seeing you. I look forward to next time I run into you at one of the cons and get to
Yes.
give you a big hug and look at all your spooky stuff on your huge
Can-
setup.
Can I mention a couple places real quick? I had to write them
Sure.
down.
Absolutely. The floor is yours.
Let's see. In September, from September 20th to 22nd, I'll be at UltraCon in West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm a guest there. I'm not going to have a huge setup. I don't think we're having any kind of panels, but I will be there as a guest. I'll talk paranormal all day with you. You know, I have Florida Horror Fest in Fort Myers, October 19th. It's one day, 10 to 5. That's going to be a lot of fun. They got Tom McLaughlin. He wrote one of the Friday the 13th, and there's a couple people from Friday the 13th there. And Port Orange Library, October 5th. Coconut Grove Library, October 21st. And I think that's everything right now.
And do you do kids' birthday parties, Bill? Because my 3, almost 4-year-old has requested a Ghostbusters birthday party. So currently the rest of the house is decked out with ghost traps and
I'll do it different.
proton packs. And I've been told, Mommy, don't give me the proton pack from the Halloween store. I want the real one. So wish me luck.
I come in with the Ouija boards and we summon.
I
Get them started early. We do
load
a
up the
how to
truck.
summon party.
Oh, man.
We'll give that kid a party he'll never forget.
He's begging for one. So, you know, here you go, kid.
Well, Bill, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it.
where
Like
else?
Otis said, the hours just flew by. So, but if you could hold on, we'll
anytime.
close the show out real quick and we'll chat with you offline here real quick. Okay?
Howard, I'll get you those social links. We'll post them here in the chat.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you again
Awesome.
for having me.
Oh, our
Bill, thank
pleasure.
you so much.
right, we'll
Absolutely.
hang out.
Stick
We'll talk to
around
you in
for
just a minute.
second, Bill. We'll
Yep.
be right back with you. Man,
Yeah, that should have been a 2-hour show.
I
We'll have
had
him back.
so many more questions.
Yeah,
Many
well-
more questions. That could have gone, but that was a great conversation. I want to thank everyone for joining us, getting involved in the conversating. Good stuff.
Stay at the devil's chair, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
Yep.
don't go.
Apologies
don't
go out to
spitting,
Bill's wife.
Yes.
Next week
Mm-hmm.
is it? How do you pronounce this? Jonah?
Jonathan.
Jonathan Davis from Terrifier 2.
Yep.
Yes. And Mirror.
Yep.
I
That's the
just
new
started
project.
recently following them on social. So he's going to be talking about Terrifier 2, I guess, and probably more so Mirror.
Definitely Mirror. I'm
So,
really, really intrigued about that one.
Yes, me as well.
Can't wait.
Again, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. We will see you
Next Wednesday.
next